Tonight is a night of hope, a celebration of what America once was, and with God's grace, what it will soon be again.
All eyes tonight on Ohio Senator J.D. Vance during day 3 of the Republican National Convention. He gave his first speech since Donald Trump announced Vance as his running mate for his second White House run. Now, tonight, Vance formally accepted the VP nomination. We have team coverage for you tonight from Milwaukee, and our political commentator Sue O'Connell joining us live here in studio. But before we get to her, we do want to get to our NBC's J.C. Monahan for the very latest in Milwaukee. J.C., good evening.
Good evening, Priscilla. We have a lot of new developments from the attempted assassination of Donald Trump to the race for the White House and President Biden, who we have learned has tested positive for COVID. That announcement was made after he visited a family restaurant in Las Vegas to greet supporters and volunteers. And then hours later, Biden boarded Air Force One after his campaign canceled an appearance at an event with Latino voters. The White House put out a statement saying, in part, the president is experiencing mild symptoms, and he will be returning to Delaware, where he will self-isolate and continue to carry out his full duties. Now, we're also learning new details about the attempted assassination of Trump. A source told NBC News local law enforcement saw the gunman with a rangefinder, so to measure the distance before the former president took the stage Saturday. The source also said local authorities reported this to the Secret Service. And in the aftermath of that shooting in Pennsylvania, House Speaker Mike Johnson and other top Republicans are calling for the resignation of Secret Service Director Kimberly Cheadle. Johnson appeared on Fox News at the RNC, where he called the security failure inexcusable. The former president's son, Eric Trump, was on Meet the Press Now, where he said there's no question Cheadle should step down. Now, meanwhile, the Trump campaign said today it will not agree to a vice presidential debate until at least next month's Democratic National Convention, basically leaning into this idea that they don't know who will be on the ticket, so just suggesting it's uncertain at this point. And this does come as many Democrats ask President Biden to withdraw from the race, the most recent being the leading candidate for Senate in California, Adam Schiff. Let's stay on the topic of vice presidents and go back to NBC 10 political reporter Matt Pritchard, who is at the forum. You were there as J.D. Vance took the stage. It sounded to me, it seemed like, Matt, that the crowd really was energized by him.
Yeah, JC, there's no doubt about it. The entire arena was with J.D. Vance from the moment that he stepped up to the podium to the moment he ended his remarks for the evening. This was his opportunity to introduce himself to the nation, and that's exactly how he started off his speech tonight. He covered a whole host of different topics. Before I get into them, I'll step out and just give you a look at what the convention floor looks like right now as things begin to empty out. Donald Trump has already left as well. Now, again, J.D. Vance covered a lot of different topics, one of them being his background. We've talked a lot about it, rising up out of poverty, making his way into the Marines, using the GI Bill to go to Yale Law School, become a lawyer, ultimately find his wife at that law school, a woman that is of Indian immigrant parents. And now he has kids with her. She spoke. She introduced him. He's written a best-selling novel. And that sort of led well into the different policy topics that he wanted to talk about. He wanted to bring up the fact that Joe Biden, in his mind, is responsible for some of the legislation in the last 30 years or so that led communities like his in Ohio to fall into poverty, talking about NAFTA when he was in 4th grade. He also got into immigration and the border and how much that needs to be fixed in his mind and in the Republican Party's mind. And he also made a point of saying that the Republican Party is moving forward with a message of unity, trying to bring everyone into the fold and have discussions as they go along in the next 4 years.
Shouldn't we be governed by a party that is unafraid to debate ideas and come to the best solution? That's the Republican Party of the next 4 years. United in our love for this country and committed to free speech and the open exchange of ideas.
And as you mentioned, JC, multiple times the crowd was chanting along with him with various different things that he said. As I was observing Donald Trump in the VIP box, he seemed to be appreciating what was said by J.D. Vance, resonating with it as he's getting to know his running mate that he just selected just a few days ago. But of course, he wasn't the only speaker tonight. There were a whole host of others, including some of those who were up for this VP nomination as well. North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum spoke, former advisor to President Trump, Peter Navarro, fresh out of a prison sentence for contempt of Congress, spoke just hours since he had left prison. And also the the former president's son, Donald Trump Jr., spoke as well and relitigated a few of the things, the grievances that Donald Trump has from his 4 years in office and also the 4 years that we've seen of Joe Biden.
They lied about Russia collusion. They lied about Hunter's laptop. They lied about Joe Biden's fitness for office. They lied about the border being secure. They lied about inflation being transitory. They lied about how they would safely withdraw from Afghanistan.
And you're hearing that agreement from the audience every single time, sort of showing just the unification of this crowd that we have seen night after night after night. And now they are on the precipice of the apex of this entire convention, which will be tomorrow night when Donald Trump takes to the stage. JC.
Matt, thank you. And that will do it for us here live in Milwaukee for tonight. As you just heard Matt say, tomorrow is the final day of the RNC. And yes, the keynote speaker, of course, will be former President Donald Trump. We will be bringing you live reports up until that speech and, of course, after it as well. Right now, though, I want to send it back over to Glenn and Priscilla.
JC Monahan in Milwaukee, thank you. We continue our team coverage now with NBC 10 political commentator Sue O'Connell. All right, Sue, let's talk about the convention as a whole. It's also a TV show.
It is.
So storytelling, stagecraft, it's all important. That's how you inspire voters. On that score, how are the Republicans doing?
Well, tonight, no two ways about it, Glenn. This was a huge success for the RNC. We had appeals to suburban women from Kellyanne Conway. We had a tug at the heartstrings from granddaughter Kai Trump. You had Fight Club with Don Jr., and we took a visit to the Heartland and the swing states with J.D. Vance. And then I think what was probably the emotional anchor of the night when those Gold Star families sharing their grief and their anger, saying that Joe Biden has ignored the loss of their loved ones who died in the pullout from Afghanistan. That segment hit really hard, I think.
You talked about Afghanistan there. Make America safe once again.
Once again.
Was the theme tonight. So they were talking about foreign policy.
Yeah.
What do you think is the main takeaway they hope voters are leaving with on that subject?
So there wasn't really a firm foreign policy takeaway, which is typical for Donald Trump. He doesn't really have a policy message, but speakers made a lot of statements that were also a little south of factual. Newt Gingrich was up earlier. He said Trump ended the Afghanistan war in an orderly fashion. Not true. Another said that under Joe Biden, the Taliban is back, but it actually never went away. And the RNC said there was peace in the Middle East under Donald Trump. And that actually, too, was not really true. But I think the takeaway is, if I was watching this as an objective observer, that the U.S. needs a strong military, and everything that's wrong with our foreign policy is because of Joe Biden. Now, of course, Glenn, all of this is unchallenged, as it is the Republicans' night and their week, and the Democrats will also have their turn to say unchallenged things, and we'll try and hold them accountable then, too.
A little south of the truth. That's very
eloquent. South of the truth.
Stay with us for continuing coverage of the RNC. Make sure to tune in for JC and Matt's live reports as the convention wraps up tomorrow. Thank you, Sue.